Welcome in, everyone, to another edition of Inside the GIAA here on GIAA.tv, presented by the Beck Center. Thrift, Barringer, Brett Taylor got a jam-packed show in store for you here today. We got special guests. We got our soccer segment. We got our baseball segment. So looking forward to doing that as we will keep trucking along here. Brett, how you been, man?
Doing good, man. As you said, we're trucking along, getting through most of the spring sports. Only got a few left to decide champions in GIAA. So just a great part of the year. Looking forward to finishing strong and as we head into the summer months. And it won't be long before we have the 2026-2027 academic and athletic season upon us. But we got to finish out this year strong. And, should be great fun to come.
All right, well, we've had a lot happen in the last week, Brett. We had individual tennis go down, track and field go down, team tennis go down. So we got several golf championships we talked last week. So we got team tennis state championships and track and field we're going to discuss here right now. But first, we want to say thank you to Roger Beck and the Beck Center for being a proud supporter and sponsor of Inside the GIAA, all things around the association. And guess what? It's playoff baseball. Can you believe it? Yes, we are here. We got playoff baseball. Playoff soccer finally underway. So let's first talk about the state champions because these are the last of all the spring sports except for baseball and soccer as playoffs start this week. And that's the only thing left for the rest of the year. Both of those, and then we'll have the state championships the last week of May. All right, let's talk about track and field state championships. For the 3A, Athens Christian, congratulations to them. They were able to win the 3A boys track state championship. Westminster Schools of Augusta came in second. So congratulations to Athens Christian. Also, by the way, you can go right now on GIAA, Instagram, and Facebook. You can see all the individual winners that were at the podium. There's too many to name, but you can go and check it out right now on the website, GIAAsports.org. And you can also go on the Instagram page. Now, who is the 3A girls? That is Stratford Academy. Second place, Athens Christian girls. So congratulations to the Stratford girls program on winning the 2026 Team 3A state championship. For 2A, Brentwood swept it, boys and girls, but Brentwood School able to win championship for both boys and girls. Runner-up for the boys is Gatewood, and then runner-up for the girls was Edmund Burke. So congratulations to Brentwood School on winning the 2A state championship, Brett.
Yeah, great job. I know a lot goes into that, and you've got to qualify and get enough folks in there to get your team points. So it's impressive to see some of the teams, especially some of the schools that were able to win boys and girls. So that means they had a lot of athletes make it and score a lot of points for their team. So congratulations to all those schools. It takes a lot to win a state championship, and just commend their effort on a great season. So we'll also talk Thrift quickly about the tennis team state champions. I know we went over in previous week the individuals. So we'll look at 3A first. And the winner of the boys AAA team state championship is Rivers Academy. I know it's shocking considering how good their individuals did. They end up winning the team competition as well. William and Reed comes in with the silver medal there in second place. And then, what do you know it? The girls for AAA, again, Rivers Academy winning another state championship there for Rivers Academy. Their individuals, their singles perform well. And then obviously here in the team competition, they were able to bring that home. Deerfield Windsor ends up as the runner-up in there. And then on the flip side, kind of the same as what we had on the AAA side. On the Quad A side, FPD takes both boys and girls championship. So you've got a single school in the AAA that took it with Rivers Academy. You got a single school in Quad A that takes it, both boys and girls. For the boys, Fulton Science Academy finishes runner-up in the boys, and then in the girls, Tallulah Falls finishes runner-up in the girls' Quad A state championship. So those are your team state champions and runners-up here for the 2026 season.
Congratulations to all those track and field and team tennis state champions. And now we have soccer and baseball left. Speaking of baseball, we're going to talk rankings. The brackets have came out. The final rankings are here. We've solidified. We're going to give you the ultimate playoff preview for 1A, 2A, 3A in baseball. Brett and I don't go anywhere here on Inside the GIAA.
GIAA.TV is your official home for live coverage of GIAA state championships throughout the year. Whether you are at home or on the go, you can stream the action live on your favorite device. Don't miss a second of the action from across the state, all on one platform. GIAA.TV, your home for GIAA championships.
Welcome back to the program, everyone. It's time to do the brackets, and let's go ahead and get them up here, Brett, and let's talk about 1A classification. We'll start off that first with the 1A classification. As the number one team, we talked to the coach last week, it's Citizens Christian. If you look at the rankings, I know we don't have them up. Final rankings were Citizens Christian 1, David Emmanuel 2, Vidalia Heritage 3, Thomas Jefferson 4, Robert Toombs 5, Heritage Preparatory 6, Flint River 7, First Preparatory Christian Academy 8, Covenant 9, John Hancock 10, Fullington 11, and Atlanta Jewish Academy comes in at number 12. So you see it there. Those are the matchups we got. They were able, and I know, again, if you looked at the rankings, it had Atlanta Jewish, but Crisp Academy ended up making it ahead of them. Atlanta Jewish finished 1-6-1. Crisp was 8-13. This is where the GIAA was able to step in and say, all right, let's do right by this. Crisp is the one that needs to be in. When you look at this first 1A classification, couple things stand out in the first round. I'm looking forward to that Flint River and John Hancock matchup. I think that could be some fun. But I really do think it's Citizens Christian's game. They are so far ahead of everyone else right now. They are the prohibitive favorite. Wouldn't sleep on David Emmanuel. Thomas Jefferson has been pretty good this year. What's your thoughts on this 1A classification bracket, Brett?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, Thrift. David Emmanuel, maybe the threat there, if any of them are for Citizens Christian. Coach Chad Starley down there at David Emmanuel has won a couple state championships before at a previous stop at John Millage. So you would think he's got some good postseason experience and going to use that wisdom he has in winning previous championships. Obviously, Thomas Jefferson is another school that's played in a state championship not too long ago. Coach Andy Bonifay over there in Louisville does a great job. So the Jaguars will be a threat, but I think it's just going to be the pitching for Citizens Christian. Unless something happens that we're not expecting, someone can't locate the ball and has bad composure and bad command of their pitches. I really think that Citizens Christian is going to be the class of single A, and you're going to see the Patriots probably play in that state championship. I won't go as far to say as they're going to lift the trophy yet. We'll see how things kind of play out, but right now they are, as you said, the prohibitive favorites.
Citizens Christian, and I got Thomas Jefferson in the semifinal. I got all chalk. David, Emmanuel, and Vidalia. Wouldn't sleep on Flint River. They made the championship 2 years ago, had a deep run last year, but I think this is going to be all chalk. Let's go to 2A classification. Now, you see the 12 teams that are in it. Sherwood comes in at number 12. Now, if you go to the actual rankings, Brett, the rankings goes as follows. When they were released on Saturday, Southwest Georgia 1, Gatewood 2, Trinity Christian 3, Heritage 4, Edmundburg 5, Southland 6, Brentwood 7, Westminster Christian Academy 8, Windsor Academy 9, Briarwood 10, Georgia Christian 11, and Sherwood comes in at number 12. You see these, they kept that about the same. Actually, they did keep it the same, Brett. I think Southwest Georgia, they're trying to come in, trying to win a championship. Obviously Gatewood, the defending state champion, I still would sleep on them. You got to knock them off the rock first. What's some of the things that are sticking out for you here in the 2A classification, Brett?
Yeah, if I'm Heritage, I don't like a potential matchup with Edmund Burke there in what would be their first round, the bracket second round. That's going to be a tough series. But I think both of those teams are scrappy. It could go to 3 games. So that would be, if you're a fan and you're don't have a rooting interest for either team, that may be a series to check out, because I think that's going to go the distance. And I think Gatewood they're going to be tough, man. They're the 3-time defending state champs. They have played Southwest Georgia before in the state championship. And obviously they've just had so much success. They've had a run of a really good group of players over the last 4 years. And, sometimes winning breeds that culture, and you just walk on the diamond and you expect to win, not in the sense of you can just roll the balls out and win just because you're Gatewood, but you have an expectation that you're going to play well. And so I think Gatewood has that in their baseball program right now. And I think, as you mentioned, Southwest Georgia has to kind of slay the giant. And that's their, even though they're the 1 seed, I think they've got to get over that mental hurdle. And can they do it if Gatewood's there in the end? I think those are where you're gonna see your biggest threats. Southland is another team I wouldn't sleep on. They play good baseball over in Americus, and Trinity Christian right there, who would play Southland potentially in that 3-6 matchup in the second round. That would be a good series as well. So I think you're probably going to get, if I had to predict it out, Southwest Georgia, I think probably that's just going to end up being a 2-game series, whoever they play, Westminster Christian or Windsor. I think the same for Gatewood, a 2-game series. I think those other 2 series, the 4-5 and the 3-6 matchup, I think probably going to go the distance. So those would be the 2 series that I would be looking at to go and check out if I'm a fan.
Yeah, I don't see many upsets here in that first round. I don't expect it, and I do think it could be chalk again. Heritage has been a really good baseball program, and I really expect probably a 1-2 championship matchup. I would say Gatewood would be the team that I pick to bring home that championship. Let's continue on to 3A. All right, 3A classification. Valwood's dominated all year long. They finish at number 1, where they should be. Number 2 is Deerfield Windsor. Number 3, Frederica. Number 4, Pinewood. Those all line up with the rankings. 5, Piedmont. 6 is John Millage. 7, Tift area. 8, the Westfield School. 9, Brookwood. 10, St. Andrews. 11, Lakeview. And number 12, Dominion Christian. They lined up exactly with the rankings. Valwood got that first round by Piedmont, Frederica, and Deerfield Windsor. Would not sleep on a John Millage team that will host St. Andrews. Now, if you look, there's only 2 teams in the entire 3A that have 20 wins. St. Andrews one of them. Now, the thing is, they played a negative strength of schedule, which is why they're 20-10, but ranked number 10. But wouldn't sleep on them as they take on Tift area. They'll be on the road. John Millage will host Lakeview. I think they have no problem with them. Piedmont got a big win over Stratford last week. That's the team I really think people need to keep an eye on. Brett, when you see 3A classification, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great battle. 1 through 4 right there, all programs that have played for a state championship in recent years. And I'll tell you what, you mentioned Piedmont. They beat Stratford. Westfield beat Stratford last week as well in a close ball game. So you got some teams there that could do some damage. I think it comes down to pitching depth, and like it always does. That's like saying in football that it comes down to how you play in the trenches. But, I mean, pitching depth is going to be – can you get enough out of if you've got to have like a game where you have multiple pitchers pitch and try to just piece it together, a bullpen type game to get a W. That's going to be the question. You got to steal one if you're one of these lower seeds and try to get that series to a 3rd game. If you can do that, you put pressure on the favorite. That's the recipe for an upset. And I like the teams you mentioned. I like GIAA a lot. I think you get the 3-6 matchup potentially there if they take care of business at home against Lakeview. You have to travel down to the island to play to Frederica. That's going to be a tough challenge for anybody who does that. But I like GIAA's mental toughness and their ability to do that. But yeah, it to me this is a great bracket. I think it's wide open. I know Valwood's got a great record, but there's some teams in there that I think can compete with them. And I would not say just pencil them in because it's going to be a tough road for anybody to come out of this AAA bracket.
Finally, 4A classification, and it's going to be a barn burner. Number one team and the number one team in the entire state of Georgia. Actually, now ranked number 8. They're 28-1, but actually they have dropped to number 8 in the latest Max Preps rankings. Number 1 in GIAA, obviously. Number 2 in the Macon area, according to Max Preps, behind Houston County. 8 overall, and nationally ranked as well. Coach Greg Moore's team's been lights out. Connor Strandmark's been great. Keon Johnson, the Vanderbilt commit's been excellent. They got multiple seniors. This team's the deepest team, and this has been the best team by far in the entire GIAA all year long. But they've also been the number one team for the last 3 years. And the previous 2, they lost to Brookstone. And guess where Brookstone's at? Yeah. The same place they've been the last couple of years, number 2. And I know I was griping last week, like, how is Brookstone Cougars, the defending state champion, any lower than number 2 when they have 22 wins on the season, second most in the 4A classification, and they got the second fewest losses? Never made sense to me, and they made it right. They finished number 2. Stratford finishes number 3. Big losses to Westfield and Piedmont last week. Number 4, Athens Christian. 5, Tattnall. Number 6, Bethlehem Christian. Number 7, Calvert Christian. They've been on a tear lately, and they were 5 games under 500, and you see where they're at. They're 16-14 right now, and they got a double digit. There are 7 teams with a double-digit rating. That's how loaded this 4A classification is. Strong Rock comes in at number 8. Number 9, George Walton. 10, Bullock. 11, Loganville. And number 12, Tallulah Falls. Pacelli got just left out. I think Tattnall has no problem with Tallulah. I am picking Calvary over a Bullock team that I think that could go 3 games. It should be fun. I think Bethlehem will have no problem with Loganville. And I think George Walton will lose to Strong Rock. In that quarterfinals, that's where it's going to get interesting. I know Athens got 21 wins, but Tattnall played in a tough region with both FPD and Stratford. Wouldn't be surprised if JB went up there, Coach JB went up there and was able to take them down. And I would love nothing more to see Brookstone and Calvary face off that and the fireworks there, the rivalry between those 2 teams, and then Stratford and Bethlehem Christian. Again, I only think the only given really is FPD, and even then, a Strong Rock team that's feisty, you overlook them. FPD could lose it and make it a 3-game series. I'm very interested in seeing how this is going to play out. What's your thoughts on the 4A classification, Brett?
Yeah, I completely agree with your last comment. I think that you got that FPD, Tattnall, Stratford region, but I tell you what, you don't sleep on that region. That Strong Rock, Brookstone, Pacelli, who just misses this bracket. That tells you how good this bracket is and how tough the region that they play in is. You got Calvary Christian in there as well, and you have Westfield in the AAA in there, who's played all of these teams really tough. They've also given Stratford a loss there. So as you mentioned, Stratford's kind of on. If you had a graph, Stratford to me is kind of on they're trending downward right now based on their performance. They've got to figure it out really quickly and try to get things rolling here in the playoffs. I'm interested to see if Calvary beats Bullock Academy. You've got an all Columbus matchup there in the second round. That's going to be outstanding. I've said all along, I thought Tattnall is one of the most dangerous teams because of their pitching. You've got Wyatt Still, who had the record earlier in the year with 18 strikeouts in a game. That's a Georgia State record for a single game strikeout. So, they're all kinds of dangerous. You wonder if their bats can come alive enough to get them over the hump in a series against Athens Christian, potentially. FPD, I think FPD, you know what you're getting with them. You mentioned their quote unquote fall in the rankings. I really just think that is a symptom of the fact that all of these GHSA schools, all these they're in the playoffs now, so their rating is boosted because they're playing other teams, and somebody's got to win those games, right? So they're playing other teams that are highly ranked, so their strength of schedule and their rating is going to boost up, whereas FPD is really hadn't faced a ton here lately that's going to help push that rating up. So they haven't done anything wrong. They're still as good a team as the rating thought they were earlier in the year. It just happens to be that the math is playing against them right now. But that second round matchup against Strong Rock, that's going to be tough. But I do think the Vikings are going to find a way. They just got a lot of talent. And as long as they they pitch well. I think they're going to score enough runs. So I think all signs are pointing to the third matchup of this, and we're going to see, kind of like Southwest Georgia in the AA, can FPD get past the boogeyman, so to speak, in Brookstone, or the Cougars win their third in a row? What a feat that would be for the Brookstone Cougars. And I think standing in their way is going to be FPD when we get down to Georgia Southern. So I'm excited, man. Looking at these brackets, it gets you pumped.
No doubt about it. And that is our bracket coverage here for baseball. We'll have soccer coming up here in just a little bit with Coach Ian Jones and Richard Holdridge. We're going to take a break. When we come back from break, we got more here inside the GIAA on GIAA.tv.
GIAA.tv now brings you more live coverage of more sports than ever before. Announcing GIAA.tv Lite with live coverage of swim, wrestling, cheer, and more. GIAA.tv Lite is the next best thing to being there. From one screen, you will hear the crowd, see the action, the scores, the stats, and more. With no play-by-play or instant replays, GIAA.tv Lite is half the price of our regular broadcast. Announcing GIAA.tv Plus. With all of your fan favorites, GIAA.tv Plus now adds volleyball, softball, all-star football, and more, featuring all the play-by-play, instant replays, multiple angles, and more, all for less than the cost of 2 adult tickets to the event. Don't miss 1 second of the action all year long, only on GIAA.tv.
Want to relive your favorite GIAA moments? Now you can. For only $5.99 a month, the GIAA Vault gives you access to full games and championship memories from across the association from 2016 to today. Missed a game? Want to rewatch a championship run? The GIAA Vault makes it easy to find and watch when and wherever you want. Visit vault.giaa.tv.
It's Inside the GIAA, and once again, Richard Holdridge here with the coach of Stratford Academy, Coach Ian Jones. Coach, first of all, congratulations on the win yesterday. The brackets are out. I'm excited. This is really when we get into the weeds of breaking down these brackets, because the ultimate goal is to get to your location, Stratford Academy, to play in the soccer championships on May the 26th and the 27th. Coach, how you been?
Doing well, man. Just coming off last night. Not much sleep. Adrenaline was still pumping at midnight last night, and then early start this morning to get right back at it.
Yeah, no question about it, and well deserved as you were able to get the big win, and I know that you're excited about that. All right, well let's go ahead and let's not waste any time. We're going to go ahead and we're going to break down these brackets for you. All right, let's go ahead and start with 2A girls. We'll go ahead and we will throw them up. There we go. All right, well, the defending champions, Central Fellowship, they are going to be the #1 overall seed, and they will await the winner of Gatewood and First Preparatory Christian. That will take place on Friday. We got the #2 seed Westminster Christian awaiting the winner of Sherwood Christian and Holy Spirit Prep. And then Trinity Christian, the 3 seed, taking on Heritage School Robert Toombs. St. George's out of Milner, going to be awaiting the winner of Georgia Christian and Heritage Prep. Coach, your thoughts on the 2A girls bracket?
Well, I've said it for the last few weeks. I think it's all going through Central Fellowship. They're a very, very strong side, but I certainly think that first round game, a matchup between Gatewood and First Presbyterian Christian, I think that's going to be a great game. I think either one of those could come out of that. Well, obviously one of them's going to come out, but I certainly think the seeding on that is really tight. So I would anticipate a very decent game on that one. Georgia Christian, I think that they've got the skill and the history of being going deeper into the playoffs. So I think they'll come out of that bracket and to play St. George's in the quarterfinals. And then Sherwood Christian, Holy Spirit Prep. Sherwood Christian. I mean, they've had a pretty good season, so I would anticipate them, hitting up on Westminster, and then, and then you got Heritage School and RTCA Robert Toombs. Again, that could be a toss-up. But again, I think, push comes to shove. We're looking for someone that's going to be able to challenge Central Fellowship, and so I think between that second, third, and fourth seed, I think those are the ones that would give Central Fellowship the most trouble.
All right, let's take a look at 2A boys. Heritage School is the number 1 seed. They will await the winner of St. George and Atlanta Jewish. That's the 8-9 matchup. Sherwood Christian out of Albany going to be awaiting the winner of Westminster Christian St. Mary's. Augusta Prep, they're at the 2 seed, taking on the winner of Trinity Christian First Preparatory. The defending champions, Holy Spirit Prep, a 3 seed, taking on the winner of Central Fellowship and Furtaw Prep. So those first round matchups will take place this Saturday. Second round matchups on Saturday, May the 16th. Coach, do you think the defending champions, Holy Spirit Prep, has a path to get back to the championship at Stratford and possibly win a second?
I do feel fairly confident that they'll find a way to get to the finals, but it's certainly not going to be easy. They've graduated a lot the last few years. And they've had some really solid players that have been playing high level club up in Atlanta, and so they struggled early on this season, but as the season went on, they got stronger and stronger, and I certainly think not bypassing the first round. I mean, I think that 8 and 9 seed game between St. George's and Atlanta Jewish will be a tight matchup. Westminster Christian, I think, will certainly pull that one out. I would anticipate. Trinity Christian out of Dublin. I know the coach for the First Presbyterian Christian, Tom. Tom's a tactician, so he'll have his boys ready for Trinity Christian. So, I wouldn't be surprised if there was an upset in that game. And then Central Fellowship for a top. I've seen Central Fellowship play early in the year. They also graduated quite a bit, but as the season's gone on, they've played some decent teams, and that experience I think will pay off and preparing for Holy Spirit. So, but I still right now on paper I would say Heritage School is a team to beat. They had a tough draw last week against Westminster out of Augusta. They were undefeated heading into that game, and certainly, and I believe they were up 1-0 at the half and ended up losing, I think 7-3. So it was just one of those games where kind of the wheels might have fallen off a little bit, but I think that's the kind of experience that they probably are glad to have had as they head into the playoffs.
All right, let's take a look at 3A girls. There are only 8 teams that make it, which means quarterfinals actually is the first round, and it will not start until next Friday. The number 1 overall seed is Frederica, the defending champions. They're taking on St. Andrews. Terrell Academy taking on Lakeview in the 4-5 matchup. Westminster Schools of Augusta taking on John Millage in the 3-6 matchup. And then Brookwood taking on Deerfield Windsor. Nobody in the 3A classification for girls soccer has a bye. So talk about the 8 teams as they battle out in the quarters. And what is it going to take for them to be in Macon on May the 26th?
Well, I've said it for the last few weeks about Frederica on the girls' side. They've always historically had a very competitive program. Obviously they've won state, I believe, the last 2 years, and I do think that they're going to be the toughest team to beat. But certainly, Brookwood has had a really good season and have really stepped up. So I would anticipate them and Westminster Christian battling it out in the next round. But John Millage won't be a pushover. I still think that John Millage, it's very tough for them. They're in our district with FPD and Stratford and Mount Sales and Tatnall, and so I think that experience playing against those teams certainly will help them and to be more competitive as they go into the playoffs. But certainly, I still think Frederica is going to be the team to beat. But again, you've got to make sure you show up to play, and I'm sure their coach and their coaching staff will have them ready.
Yeah, no question about it. John Millage is a very interesting case because they always play top of their competition, being in a 4A classification, but their record never really reflects that type of team they is, and it goes for all sports. So that's definitely a team to watch out for. All right, let's move on to 3A boys. And there's only 7 teams that make it. Westminster Schools of Augusta, they get that first round bye in the quarters. But then coming in, Brookwood, a number 2 seed, taking on Lakeview. St. Andrews taking on Deerfield, Windsor. Valwood taking on Frederica. Do you think that Westminster Schools of Augusta is going to have a huge advantage by being the only team that's going to have a bye? Or do they feel like, well, a week has passed and they want to try to get a game in? I mean, do you think that there could be a rest versus rust factor with Westminster Schools of Augusta?
Yeah, I mean, speaking with Coach Sean over the last few seasons, the way the playoff structure has been, where we've because of the school activities and all that, and being played basically on the week, 1 week at a time. I certainly know that that's not something that he would like, and I think as most coaches will be like, because essentially he's going to have 2.5 weeks off, and it's hard to replicate match conditions in a practice. So I think there'll be some rust, but I'm just going to say it again. Like I said last year, they were easily the best team that I've seen play. They've just got so much talent. Their coaching staff does a great job. Breaking the game down and making tactical adjustments during the game. But early in the season, St. Andrews gave them some trouble, and I believe it was a 1-0 score. And so certainly, I think St. Andrews will certainly give them a push for their money. But again, you got those other teams. Brookwood, I think, has had a tremendous season. And I think they should be fine against Lakeview, and then Valwood and Frederica, that could go either way. You got 2 schools that kind of in a rebuilding process, especially Frederica, and so I certainly think that that's going to be a long trip for whoever has to go to Augusta for either of those teams. But again, I still think all the roads go through Westminster out of Augusta.
4A girls, the number 1 overall seed is Stratford Academy. Your Lady Eagles have had a fantastic season, well deserving of a number 1 seed. They will await the winner of Mount DeSales to Tallulah Falls. And looking at the bracket, I know these say Friday and then Saturday for the first round, but we did have some games that got moved up because of graduation, right, Coach?
Yeah, this time of year is always difficult. So a lot of teams, will certainly move their games around from those dates. Those dates aren't really concrete, and really Max Preps is really the best place to go to look for those updated times, dates and times. As soon as most coaches, as soon as they know and have set those times, we go ahead and post it. So then that way, folks like yourself have that updated information.
Yeah, no question about it. The defending champions, Pacelli, is a 4 seed. They will await the winner of George Walton Tatnall Square. That could be a very intriguing matchup in the semifinals if it is Pacelli taking on Stratford. Can't wait for that. FPD, your rival, located there in Macon, they're number 2 seed. We could have an all-Macon final, and that I'm sure it would attract a huge crowd. They will await the winner of Strong Rock Bullock Academy. And then Brookstone, they play Bethlehem Christian this Friday night, and the winner of that matchup will take on the Kings Academy in Woodstock, Georgia. It is a pretty interesting scenario because last year the championship was Pacelli-Brookstone. Brookstone and Pacelli are down a little bit this year according to the seedings, but do you think that they've got a strong run to possibly get a rematch, or do you think that it could be Stratford FPD because they were the number 1 and number 2 seeds and they've had incredible regular seasons?
Well, you give credit where it's due with both Stratford and FPD. They've had tremendous seasons, and one of the difficult things that they face in regards to scheduling is finding the tougher competition. Oftentimes, we do try to play double headers And finding teams that have both good boys and good girls teams is not as easy as it might sound. And then just playing individual games is not always viable either. So, but certainly they've both had very good seasons. FPD is much improved from early in the year. They've had some injury issues, which they've overcome now. And then certainly you got to give credit where it's due with Kings Academy. They've had a good season, and so certainly I think them having the season that they've had, and being a number 3 seed is strong, but you can't write off Pacelli or Brookstone just because of the seeding. The seeding is I would say this is probably the most competitive bracket we've had on the girls' side in 4A. Since we've been back since we've been in the GIAA. Brookstone is a 6 seed, but they're not a 6 seed. I mean, I think for argument's sake, you could easily slot them into a 3rd, 4th, or even at worst 5th seed. But again, I feel pretty strongly that it will be Brookstone against Kings, and then Strong Rock and Bullock will battle it out. I think Bullock has an opportunity to potentially cause an upset there, but I think FPD will be too strong for either of those 2 teams. And then George Walton and Tatnall. I mean, Tatnall's a very, very young program. Their coach, Dresden, is back at the helm. And so she's rebuilding. And so I think they've got a tough draw with George Walton. But, George Walton, I think, won't really challenge Pacelli, in my opinion. I mean, Pacelli arguably has played the toughest schedule, both on the girls and the boys side, with all the teams that they have the opportunity to play down in Columbus and on the border of Alabama. So, and then MDS and Tallulah Falls. I mean, I think MDS will squeak by on that one. Coach Kenny Epps has done a great job with that team. He's got a lot of good young talent. And then, and so Stratford and Mountain Sales will be matched up again in that next round. So.
All right, Coach. And finally, 4A boys, it is really top heavy with some of the top soccer programs in the GIAA. The defending champions, Pacelli Vikings, are the number 1 seed. However, they did lose to Brookstone in their final game of the regular season. That catapulted Brookstone up to the number 2 seed. I think they're the most improved team in 4A, going from 4 wins to 12 wins. Calvary Christian, they were the number 1 team in the GIAA for most of the season. Struggled as of late, but they still get rewarded with that 4 seed getting to host in the quarters. And then Mount Sales, they were also number 1 at certain points of the season, but they are a 3 seed. Now, this bracket is updated. Stratford did beat George Walton. You move on. I know that you played that game early because of graduation, right, Coach? But you move on to take on Brookstone next week. What are you looking forward to with that matchup?
Well, on our end, I mean, we were just gracious at, for George Walton. I mean, they put up a really good fight against us last night, and certainly, at this time of year, it's so difficult to try and schedule games around everything. We had a large contingency of families that would not be available, that were going to be out of town for siblings' graduations, and I always tell my guys, hey, family comes first. But so we really appreciate George Walton and their flexibility in moving that game. So obviously, that puts us up against Brookstone next week, who, for argument's sake, man, they've come out of left field, man. They've done a really good job this year with their 12 wins, and so certainly we're going to have our hands full with them. I think Cristo Rey and Kings Academy, I mean, they battled it out a couple times this year already. And Cristo Rey, I believe they've won by 1 goal in each of those games. So that you could see a potential upset there. I think going against Mountain Sales is going to be a tough challenge for either of those teams. And then Calvary, I mean, they've had a great season, man. They've just. Unfortunately, I think based on strength of schedule, that might have hurt them, after Brookstone and who Brookstone and Pacelli have played. And they've played each other really late in the season. So they've been kind of, it's been kind of cannibalizing each other, eating each other up. And, I know last Thursday, Pacelli beat Calvary in penalty kicks. And then, of course, Pacelli had to turn around and play Brookstone the following night. So, and that's a tough ask to play back-to-back won, but then play back to back against your big region rival. But Brookstone had a great game. I think Tallulah Falls, their record is, they've got a great record. Unfortunately, where they're located, I don't think they've had their strength of schedule is very good, but I wouldn't count them out. They are a strong side, very, very well coached. So I think Calvary will be on their toes, ready for Tallulah, assuming they take care of business with Tatnall. And then Fulton Science and Bullock. I mean, Bullock have got some good players. I think they've struggled with a few minor injuries that have kind of set them back a little bit. But they've had some really good competition. Some competitive games. Took Mountain Sales to overtime. They came to us, and that's where I saw some injuries that probably paid dividends for us when we beat them. But so I'd say again, just like I said on the 4A girls, I think this is going to be one of the most competitive brackets we've had, and it wouldn't be surprising if you saw a 5th, 6th, or 7th seed potentially making a deeper run. But certainly, teams got to show up, and teams can't take anyone lightly, and I think all the coaches know that, and we've had a year to kind of prep for that in a lot of ways. So I'm looking forward to seeing some good soccer. If we're still in it, which I hope we are, great. But if not, when we here at Stratford in a few weeks, look forward to hosting everyone.
Yeah, Coach, I definitely am excited about it. I can't wait until the soccer championships, May the 26th and 27th at Stratford Academy. I know the whole school is just getting ready for that. You guys do a fantastic job with the hospitality room and just a beautiful facility on that campus. And we can't wait to be there for GIAA TV. Coach, I can't wait for you to be back on next week as we recap the first round of the brackets and we preview the quarterfinals. It should be a lot of fun. And good luck against Brookstone next week. You got a little bit of time off to prepare for that. Maybe watch, some other soccer matches and, just try to get ready for that upcoming matchup down in Columbus. And can't wait to see you in Columbus, which that will be a lot of fun. But thanks again, Coach, for being on Inside the GIAA.
Well, thanks so much, man. We appreciate all the coverage you're giving soccer and helping spreading the love of the game. And certainly, really appreciate it all.
All right, let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, Thrift and Brett are going to wrap up the show. It's Inside the GIAA. It is Championship Edition, and we'll be right back after this.
GIAA.TV is your official home for live coverage of GIAA state championships throughout the year. Whether you are at home or on the go, you can stream the action live on your favorite device. Don't miss a second of the action from across the state, all on one platform. GIAA.TV, your home for GIAA championships.
Welcome back, everyone. Fantastic show here, Brett. Always a lot of fun, man, and glad that the playoffs are here. Can you believe it? We have the playoff baseball finally here. We've already had playoff soccer games that was played last night, baseball games underway. We hope everyone stayed safe through all the tornadoes and rain and the storms that came the last couple of days, and hopefully we get these baseball games and soccer games through and on to the quarterfinals next week, and we can't wait to talk about those. Final thoughts, Brett, before we wrap it up.
Well, I told you a couple weeks ago, or maybe last week, it can rain all at once right now. Once we get over to Statesboro and get to Macon to do the soccer and baseball, you got to stop. Give us all the rain we can get right now. Let's get there to the end of the season and the end of the month, and you go ahead and rain before then, and we'll dry things up enough for us to get the championships in, and then we'll head into summer. But you mentioned it, man. Just super excited about how things are going to finish up for this school year, and looking forward to a great kind of finish and cherry on the top of the icing there with soccer and baseball the last week in May. Thrift, we've got some great brackets as we saw in the baseball and the soccer breakdown. It's going to be some awesome action to finish up the season. So I can't wait, and we'll be bringing all of it to you right here on GIAA.TV.
No doubt. Coming up in the last week of May, we'll have the broadcast for soccer and baseball. You'll be able to watch those streams. You can go watch all previous state championship streams on the vault, which is $5.99. Go and have access to that today. Thank y'all so much for watching. We hope you have a great rest of your night and enjoy the playoffs. See you next time on Inside the GIAA, on GIAA.tv, presented by the Beck Center.
This copyrighted broadcast, presented exclusively on GIAA.tv, is copyrighted by the Georgia Independent Athletic Association, a division of the Georgia Independent School Association, for the private use of our audience. It may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without the express written consent of the Georgia Independent School Association.